In this video, you will learn how to convert decimals to fractions. Let's start with an example. So if you're given the decimal 0.68 and you want to convert it to a fraction, you could almost guess. It's right, it's about 2/3. It's a little more than 2/3, but it's not exactly 2/3. And so it's nice to be able to estimate, but here you'll learn a process how to exactly calculate what the fraction would be that would correspond to this decimal. So what we're going to do first is rewrite the 0.68. 0.68 is the same as 0.68 divided by 1, right? Anything is the same as itself divided by 1. Like 7 is the same as 7 over 1. 8 is the same as 8 over 1. 0.68 is the same as 0.68 divided by 1, and that's why I can rewrite it that way. And now what we're going to do is rewrite it again, but make that 1 actually have a decimal, because we're going to want to have a decimal in the top number, the numerator, and the bottom number, the denominator. We want to have a decimal in both. Now what we're going to do is move that decimal. We don't want 0.68 to be a decimal anymore. We need to make it actually become a bigger number. We're going to make the numerator bigger and the denominator bigger until we do not have any decimals anymore. So I'm going to move that decimal to the right, one spot and another spot. And if I move that decimal to the right by 2 spots in the numerator, I need to do the same thing in the denominator. So in the 1.0, I'm going to move the decimal to the right 1 and another spot. So that 1.0 now becomes 100. And the top number, the numerator, 0.68, now becomes 68 because I moved the decimal 2 spots to the right. So now I can rewrite that as 68 divided by 100. So now I've converted my decimal into a fraction, but I could simplify the fraction. If I look at that, I'm not sure what number is both divisible into the numerator and the denominator. Maybe there's an ideal number to use there, but I know for sure I can look at that and I see they're both even numbers. 68 and 100 are even numbers. So I can at least divide the numerator and the denominator by 2 to simplify it. So I'm going to do that. So 68 divided by 2 is 34, and 100 divided by 2 is 50. So I've simplified it to 34 divided by 50. It looks like I didn't use the most ideal number for simplifying that, the factor of 2, because I still can simplify further. But that's okay. So the 34 and the 50 are both even numbers, so I know they're at least divisible by 2. I want to be thinking here, are they divisible by 2 or 3 or 4 or 5? Well, they're not both divisible by 3, they're not both divisible by 5, but I know they're divisible by 2. So I'm going to divide the numerator and the denominator again by 2, and I'll rewrite that as 17 over 25. Now can I simplify that further? Nope, there's no number that can go into 17 and 25 that would allow me to simplify that. So 17 divided by 25, or 17 25ths, is the same as 0.68. Now let's try another example. 0.875. We want to convert that into a fraction. So I could look at it and guess, but I can't guess the exactly right number. I just kind of estimate. Well, I feel like it's going to be a little bit less than 9/10, but I really want to calculate the exact answer. So let's follow the same procedure that we followed in the previous example to calculate the exact fraction that corresponds to 0.875. So just like before, first I'm going to rewrite it as 0.875 divided by 1, because anything divided by 1 is unchanged, right? 7 is the same as 7 over 1. Now I want to make sure I have a decimal in the numerator and the denominator, so I'm going to rewrite that again as 0.875 divided by 1.0, because 1 and 1.0 are the same thing. Now I'm going to move the decimal in the numerator until it's to the right of all the numbers by 1 spot, 2 spots, 3 spots. If I do that to the numerator, I've multiplied by 1,000. So I need to do the same thing to the denominator. I need to multiply it by 1,000, or another way to simply look at it is that I need to move the decimal 3 spots. 1, 2, 3. And now those spaces that I've created, I fill them in with zeros. And so now I've got 875 divided by 1,000. I can simplify that fraction. At the very least, I know the numerator and the denominator are divisible by 25. I can see that 25 goes into both of those evenly. So let's divide both by 25 to simplify the fraction, and we get 35 over 40. Well, it looks like I didn't simplify enough because I can tell both 35 and 40 are divisible by 5. So let's divide the numerator by 5 and the denominator by 5. So 35 divided by 5 is 7, 40 divided by 5 is 8. So now I've discovered that 0.875 is equivalent to the fraction 7 over 8. This concludes the short lesson on how to convert a decimal into a fraction. I hope you found it useful. If you did, please consider clicking the like button and subscribing to our channel.